Hi everyone, Don Peterson coming to you from the Swing Factor Golf Studio just north of Atlanta. This is a lesson recap. I had a lesson this morning and I wanted to talk a little bit about how I helped this student. He came in and said he was consistent, hit a lot of fairways, hit it pretty straight, but everybody in his group was hitting it by him. So he said 30, 40, 50 yards sometimes, these guys, and they're all the same age or older than he was, so he wanted to get some more distance. So we took a look at his swing, and I'll kind of go over some of the problems that he had, because if you have the same problems, maybe these tips can help you. So I noticed right away that his lead hand, or his lead wrist, was not over the top of the butt of the club. So I call this a weak position. If you look down here at the wrist, the butt end of the club was visible to me, looking through the camera like you are looking at me right now. So if you can see the butt end of the club and the wrist is not covering it, so now I'm going to cover the butt end of the club with my lead wrist. And what I had to do was I had to get my hand turned just a little bit to the right, but I'm also keeping it underneath the heel pad. So we had to strengthen his grip. And the reason why I wanted him to strengthen his grip is because he needed to have more wrist hinge at the top of his swing. Because he had this weak grip, he didn't let it hinge very much at the top of the swing. I think he was scared to let the face open more. So he kind of held onto it so that he could then come over the top and kind of push the face square closed. Push the face through impact and get it closed. So he had a little bit of an over the top move, just a little bit outside coming down. But then the next problem was he kind of slid as he went through the golf ball. So evidently he was getting the club face closed, and then he kind of would slide a little bit as he went through the golf ball, and his left knee kind of buckled. So what I told him, I said, look, one of the ways that you get speed in your golf swing is by having your hips accelerate, but then everything kind of snaps, and there's a kind of a snap at the bottom. So what causes the snap, in my opinion, is that lead hip, or your hips going forward towards the target and then reversing backwards really quickly, so that you get this kind of snap as you go through the golf ball. And if you have the proper grip, what I wanted him to see is this kind of like just let it flip over. And see, I'm doing it right here with just my left hand, and that's what I had him do. And you can grab a club like this yourself. Take kind of a strong grip, make sure you get your heel pad over the top, and you can see your wrist is over the top of the butt end of the club. Choke down until you're almost to the metal. And then what I want you to do is just start cocking the club just with your left wrist. And I want you to feel like you're kind of palm down when you're over here on the backswing, and then palm up on the through swing. And I want you to not pull your arm like this. Don't pull your arm through. You're just going to let the club kind of fly right past your arm there. And I don't want you to purposely rotate your wrist. I don't want you to do that. But I want you to let the club just fly out and over itself, or fly kind of around the corner, is what I tell people a lot of times. Now, what I had him work on then was, instead of sliding, we had to teach him to, straighten up as he went through. So his left hip, we had to work on. We're talking right-handed golfers now. So his lead hip or left hip had to go backwards more. I needed his left leg to feel like it was almost locking as he went back. I want you to feel like it's straightening, so that hip goes backwards, not so much forwards. If I go forward, my lead knee kind of breaks down. So he had plenty of forward with his hip. What I needed him to do was reverse the hip and get it back to the back, and that's going to get the weight back to the heel. So I had him work on that a little bit, and I'd have him just kind of practice just opening the hips like this, feeling the left leg go back to almost locked like this, and then let the right knee come in, right heel come off the ground, and then just practice letting the club flip over. And you can see, and he felt right away, he says, wow, that's a lot of club head speed, because normally he's got it hanging onto it, and then sliding as he goes through, so there's not a lot of snap at the bottom of his golf swing. So we were able to pick up quite a few yards. I can't remember what he was hitting when he came in, but I think he picked up 15, 20 yards on several of the shots. He had some more work to do. It wasn't a real easy, quick fix, because this swing felt very free to him. It's like, wow, there's a lot of looseness in this swing, where before he hung on to it. And I think a lot of you are going to have the same problem. You're hanging on to it, trying to guide it, and that's where you're losing distance. So if you want to get a lot of club head speed, you have to have a proper grip. You have to have good hinging, And then you have to, if you're going to let go and let it hinge up here, you've got to kind of let go and let it unhinge down there. And that's a freedom that a lot of people don't realize. And then what we want to do is just turn it into a swish. You know, just, you want to just rotate through and notice that my left leg is straightening as I'm coming through. And that's going to, now the club is going to round the corner down there very quickly, and you're going to hit longer, straighter shots. And that's the thing too. I told him, I said, you know, you're going to actually hit it straighter, because this floating action, when you're floating, and part of the reason he was floating on it with his left knee is he was coming with his shoulders and his head. He was trying to gain power with his upper body, and his lower body was collapsing. So, you know, he's going to be more accurate now if he posts up. I call it sticking the finish. I've done several videos. You guys might have heard this before, but I always talk about gymnasts coming down and they land and then they stick their finish. I think golf professionals, good players, do the same thing. When they rotate through and hit a golf shot, they kind of stick that finish and hold and pose, they call it, right? So work on the grip, choke down, work on left hand only for a little while, or lead hand only, and then rotate through and spin finish, and then get a good feel for practice swinging like this. And then see if you can hit balls one-handed. If you tee it up high, tee it up on a tee, and just kind of hit a couple like that. And make sure you rotate through and straighten that left leg. The last thing I was going to tell you, anybody who's kind of floating and going down like this and hitting with a flexed left knee, when you start going back with that left leg and you start feeling you're straightening that lead leg, you're going to be taller, all right? So that's going to cause you to kind of top shots. If you're up here taller with your lead leg, you might not catch the ball solid. So you really have to let those arms just relax, and they're going to go down and release over as your left leg is backing out of there. I also told him he had to keep his hands low as he went through. So you can't stand up. You can't stand up like this. You had to straighten that left leg and stay low through impact. All right? So for more tips like this, come back and see us again. I've got a lot of videos coming out, and make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you get notified every time I come up with a new video. Thanks. See you again soon.